Alright, welcome to the gray board. And it's on the blackboard this time. So the gray board doesn't have to exist. The gray board is just an extension of preparation process, or recording of preparation process. And what the fuck is happening to my voice? I just spent 2 hours at work. What the fuck? Ugh. It's really fucking hot. Weather. It's really hard to do stuff. But we'll make it somehow. Because after exploring Mark Passier's work, he's always talking about followers, order followers, and this kind of pisses me off because it's a lot more complicated. When people, there's one aspect of things that I don't like. There is something called responsibility. And order followers are not responsible for what they do. In fact, they are able to not claim responsibility for what they do, simply by not knowing things, by being ignorant to knowledge. And in every single aspect is pretty much the same. He's trying to avoid responsibility by actually doing actions that, well, you know how to do, but you don't understand the impact of those actions. So, do they have responsibility or not? It's really difficult, because they just don't even know how to ask questions. They don't know how to understand their responsibility. They're socially pressured, and this is what Mark Passio called it's genetics, but manipulation. I don't remember the word that he I don't know. But yeah, let's say there is something called epigenetics. There's some kind of word that is used. Dysgenics. Epigenics. Okay. Whatever then. Yeah, I used the word epidysgenics in the end. Oh man, those stupid long words. Let's just fuck. Can get the fuck out of here. Okay. We start off slow, but I don't want to reset or anything. Has to be as it is. 1 hour. So I think I want to try to reach out to Mark Passio, because he's trying to figure out what kind of truth to feed in to humans, so they not only take action, but important part is kind of knowing the enemy and knowing what kind of thing you have to achieve to disturb the enemy, stuff like this. I think... Okay, so... One cool thing is a phrase called going for full circle. I think that means proving something, right? If you go back to something, oh, I'm here again. So I would use this phrase when describing something that is exploitation, because I use this word, and it's not just proving. I came full circle when I used the phrase evil is a lie. I have created it before. I came full circle when I created the wheel of life as well. The 7 energy pattern that is surrounded by elements and all that shit. I was trying to analyze it after like 3 years after I'd drawn it. I just came for a circle and say like, oh man, that's a lot of knowledge in this shit. And I'm still here talking about 7 energies. I haven't left that out. Exploitation. So the thing I talked about exploitation, if we can get rid of that somehow, that would just save the day, really. People are really exploiting each other because they don't know how to trade and they don't understand that, well, evil is a lie, and through evil means you're not going to be efficient in general. You're not even going to be happy. You can't really, because in order to do evil, you have to get rid of empathy. And if you cannot be happy for other people, your happiness will fluctuate really badly. You'll have to feed yourself instead of look at how other people feel around you and stuff. You know, empathy kind of gives you an ability to gain happiness just from other people. That's kind of what empathy is. So if you're doing evil, you're doing an anti-empathy, or you're getting rid of empathy. One way to do it is to put on a mask and think that other people are doing the same thing. And also you're putting on a defense, right? People don't know how to feel at certain things, so they don't know how to harm you. That's the way to go. So there's a mask. I will basically put on just everything. Everything that is super important right now, because I believe like I can drill into the whole problem and maybe even how to solve it. The big 2 words is happiness and social pressure. We have to put social pressure in some kind of symbol because it's so important. The happiness is obviously like this smiley face. Alright. I'm just thinking of all the people that always use those fucking emojis. It just feels so annoying while chatting to them. Doesn't feel so real. But that's why I hate writing in general. Emojis don't solve the problem. Once you start to understand that they can be exploited, you don't have to be like happy in order to put an emoji. That's kind of the thing. But you can start questioning. You can figure out if a person is lying, but they will not want to say that. It's just so fucked up. So, and the other word is social pressure. I believe these are keywords as well. Maybe exploitation is also a keyword. but they all linked, and these will give me the problems and the solutions, the enemy that we have to focus upon and defeat. We don't even have enemies in our lives because so many people just want to avoid bad emotions. That's the way they maintain happiness, basically, somewhat. By not generating any other emotions. But it's more of a emptiness than happiness. So where do I put emptiness? I don't know. What would be a good way to describe this phrase into a symbol is the question. Maybe forming a person like I would cubify or squarify a face and be like, oh, it's a robotic face. Alright, so already there's a link. It kinda pushes you into a form. Okay. Yeah. So epigenetics is basically the other word to describe what social pressure is. It's basically the rules that social environment creates, kind of is something that is easily or reshapes easily a new person. And this is what Mark Passio says, that controllers don't actually have to directly control, they just have to figure out how to maximize social pressure, how to do that. And obviously the solution is, for the resistance, is to resist social pressure. And orders do come, or the effect of orders do come from social pressure as well. There is also an aspect of fear that is being exploited. Fear of trying to ask questions, fear of asking. Because social pressure would try to deny self-destruction. Because social pressure is first I have to prove that social pressure is definitely a self-destructive concept. That's when we're gonna understand that it's totally useless. Fear is self-destructing concept, because if you fear, you don't fear anything. It doesn't exist. The fear doesn't exist if you fear it. So yeah, why don't we try a few phrases here? Let's try to order the orator. Why would you do that? There's no value, right? It's actually a self-destructing concept. Chaos is also self-destructing concept. It's way over the top. There cannot be order. There cannot be chaos either, or pure chaos. You cannot order. Alright, so it's self-destructing in terms of it doesn't have any value. It's a super extreme way of looking at things. perhaps, or it just is negative and constantly repeats itself as negative and just destroys itself. I don't know. But yeah, if you try to do that, it creates loops sometimes. Okay, so if I would follow followers, and you can keep looping, I guess that's fine, right? It seems like it does create some kind of value following, right? But when you follow orders, it's a little different story. That is mind-bending to ask. Response. What the fuck? Exploitation. That's another self-destructing, right? How can you exploit it? What the fuck? Okay. Let's say I'm hacking into someone's computer. I will be able to avoid responsibility in any time, and this is a direct thing. Like, you exploit responsibility, you don't get in trouble for doing something wrong. Okay, and that's where exploitation comes from. You don't gain responsibility. In fact, that's why it's so confusing. Like, who is fucking responsible? But of course, the action makers are more responsible, and they don't want to be thinking about their responsibility, or they don't want to understand it. But it's like, I would say the order giver is actually more responsible for giving the order, for giving the idea, when another person doesn't even understand what they are doing. So that is an actual... that's why I don't think Mark Passio's insight is fully fleshed out. At least there's something wrong with it. When I say it I think it contradicts to me, and I cannot accept his insight. So maybe we can talk this through. I don't know. Maybe I'll be able to contact him. Alright, so we have exploitation of responsibility. An order giver would be responsible for giving orders. The person that cannot be responsible for what they do. They can't. Right? Because they don't fully understand. If they don't give the knowledge, if someone doesn't give the knowledge and gives the order, that's evil, right? You can give orders, but can you give orders? Not really, right? But there are a few problems again. There are a few problems, like I would go to work, I would get orders, but I'm fine with that, right? I know what I'm getting from that. I might be able to understand and be responsible somewhat, but also I know that I'm not responsible. Whoever is giving the orders is gonna be responsible for what I do wrong. That is an important part in when can you accept orders, and when you make it black and white, it's a little bit not satisfying. It's something that Mark Passio got really burned by expressing the idea, and even once I fully understand the idea, I would actually burn him for this as well. Burn in terms of socially pressure him, or try to debate this idea. I would never use social pressure as a word, but god damn it. We have to figure out if it's actually legit, not self-destructing statement, concept. If you social pressure, the social pressure becomes change. If you change, you make more change. So it's kind of a... Right, but it's much more complicated because it's something that comes from the outside. And how do you social pressure the social pressure? Yeah, it starts to be a self-reflection, actually, because it just it self-destructs, right? It actually separates all the individuals from each other. That's what social pressure does if it goes against itself, right? If you social pressure the social pressure, you basically create a very simple rule: don't interact. Okay, that's very important. So the self-destruction of social pressure turns into one rule. One rule: don't interact. Isolate yourself. Don't be distracted. I think I do have this rule, and now I'm really conscious about this. Like, if I'm going against social pressure, I kind of want to isolate myself a little bit. But at the same time, you just don't want to feel any social pressure from anyone. You don't want to feel like they're giving you orders of what to do. And the same goes for like Stefan Molyneux. He's also following the rule. I don't know how many times I had mentioned him, but I'm not gonna show his channel or spell out his name. The thing is, he would always say, I will not tell other people what to do. I will not give them orders, basically. But or could it be this? Or the rule becomes don't give orders, stuff like that. But if you're able to not interact with the person, I think that's when you can avoid giving orders, right? But if you have to do some kind of... If you order yourself, if you have gained orders from someone else, you'll try to like... yeah, there's so much crap here to figure out. You can only order chaos. That's the weird thing about order. It seems like self-destructing. It's really just unvaluable. It doesn't self-destruct. If you chaos the chaos, it's actually just more chaos. It actually is not self-destructing statement as well. Chaos is not. Yeah, you just make more chaos. That's it. But when you fear, it self-destructs because it disappears. Social pressure also disappears when you go against itself, right? So you put two of the same concept and it disappears. That's really bad when that happens, which means the concepts are actually illusion. Like, how can they interact and disappear? What the fuck does that mean? They're the same thing. They have to create something, but nothing happens. There's so many weird ways to look at concepts, it's ridiculous. Again, I used math in one of the blackboards that I released recently, so it's also interesting aspect. Man, I don't know if I have time for this. Gotta pause. It's really fucking hot, man. Decoding the ultimate evil, the gray board into blackboard. Oh yeah, I can't wait to fucking release this shit. Once I figure this out. So, okay, let's get this thing. Unravel the happiness. It's actually pretty complicated. The definition is pretty complicated, but I do have a word to replace what we call happiness. One word: satisfaction. When you're satisfied, you're by definition happy. Or should be. Or you can't really avoid not to be happy. Because that would be like, you know, self-harm, really. That you're never satisfied. That is called perfectionism, okay? You should try to avoid that. The reason why I think it's a very important tool, and why is that? Let's see, like, we're satisfied with things. The social pressure always tries to do this. It always tries to go against our satisfaction, which immediately well corresponds that it goes against happiness. For whatever reason, social pressure tries to not let us be happy. Also, there's another aspect to that. There is, I believe that happiness is directly linked with an individual. And also that is very important aspect, right? Becoming an individual, becoming something that is not formed by social environment. Again, all of this is possible because you can just simply create your own life at this point. There's so many possibilities. I could explain how I live at the moment, where I'm kind of hitting at, but it's so weird. It's like, oh, if I'm gonna get success after releasing a cool game, I'll just have so much. I'll just be completely free. But it's something that you have to really slow down with. The progress, the going forward is something that you have to slow down, slowly detach from things rather than, you know, do it quickly and painless. It's only painless if you don't think about it. It's so stupid. But there's so many things to just unravel all the concepts. Alright, we still have half an hour to go. Otherwise I'll have to reset again. That would be fucked up. Even though I'm not super satisfied ever. I should be satisfied, but god damn it. Even I have problems with that. And I actually yeah, it's kind of more of a transition from second to third level of consciousness. And I kind of did that, but I'm still struggling with level 2. Yeah, when you level up, you don't leave levels behind. You actually have them mastered, right? But sometimes you just skip. Sometimes you exploit a level, or try to really hard to not be exploited. Yeah, it's fucked up. Trying to explain that as well. Again, I'm just coming up with these things. But the point is once I understood the concept of happiness, usually you get also the satisfaction of doing what you want. So freedom really comes into play with this. It's one of the most important key elements. Satisfaction. And again, once you understand, oh, freedom, you mean not following orders. That's the thing, right? When you're a child, you don't know anything. You cannot be responsible for anything. That's why parents are responsible. But parents don't just get, when you get 18, parents don't suddenly, all of a sudden, get not responsible for the actions you do. It's such a stupid idea that it just all of a sudden, the responsibility doesn't apply anymore. And it's so weird. People should actually be tested for being able to be responsible for their actions. There actually has to be a test for that. That's it, right? That's it. The whole purpose is just to explain the Positteam. Why I created Positteam in the first place. Or I'm trying to. It's not a creation that is actually existing in a form that I can actually call like, oh yeah, we have Positteam. No, there is no team right now. But this is a very, very important explanation of what I try to do. And I was trying to do that intuitively. I come full circle right now. And again, you hear that phrase. But this is it, right? I finally come back and understand this concept. The key to understand. In order to defeat exploitation, there has to be a test. Right? Like, if you want to know if a person knows stuff, you have to test them for that. You have to put them into an environment where they actually have to use the abilities. And one such most important ability is responsibility. It should be called responsibility, man. I will do this fucking grammar sucking thing. I'll call it responsibility. Give me that shit. Ability to be responsible. It's important to understand that this is actual ability. And order followers can be not responsible for their actions because they are children. They're sent out to war. They're sent out to act tough as police officers and shit. But all they're doing, just being childs, not knowing what they're doing. Because if you ask questions, you will quickly see they actually need someone higher up to explain what they are actually doing. That's the point. They actually avoid responsibility. That's the crazy part. They shouldn't get any job whatsoever. That's the point. But someone is giving them a job. They're responsible for the evil that's happening. And that's where I disagree with Mark Passio. And that's why he might actually be doing evil as well. By getting over extreme. So I better fucking contact him and like say, stop dude. We gotta think this through because I see some problems with this. Man, I need to contact, like, truth is not something you can hold on to at any point for any amount of times. Truth is just something like, you got it? You gotta share it right now, dude. So I'm gonna search out this contact and try to interview him. But the important part is to understand the Positteam. People that I try to say like, oh, join this, then they don't understand the concept. But now I can actually properly explain that. And that is pretty fucking ridiculous. So this, the blackboard is gonna be called Understanding the Enemy. Okay, now. So there has to be Positteam about this. The title. Introducing Positteam, right? Fucking join this. The order. The order of chaos. And the chaos of order. What is between those words? The change, right? It changes. So yeah, I'll just re-explain everything. Oh, look at that. I can... Oh, wait. Come on, dude. I want to put this like that, but... Okay, maybe I'll figure out how to do the logo. But... Okay, we have to recap. So after all of this is done, we understand that order followers are actually not responsible because they don't even know what they're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, you cannot be responsible. So someone who gave you the ability to do things that you don't know what you're doing, right? And usually when you do anything evil, anything, you don't actually know what you're doing. Because you don't know a better way to do it that is peaceful, right? There's always a better way. Usually, the problem lies in communication. Usually you're not able to trade with another person if you're not able to communicate with him. This division of countries, of languages, this is something that contributes to that. This is what causes wars in the first place. It's not understanding, not being able to empathize, thinking that, oh, we're just gonna steal some land and just gonna be valuable to do it that way, because it's so hard to communicate, right? But in the long run, this is what actually gives a lot of value. So yeah, you look back to the past, it's like a quick solution. It's a solution within my lifetime, basically, what rulers would say. So they don't have to try to learn communication, they just take whatever they think is gonna bring more value. And now it's settled down because there's something that is able to create empathy, and it's called internet, of course. And look where we're going again. We're going back to the same fucking deal, which is the channel. This fucking channel. Called Positteam. Yeah, the first thing I'm gonna do is try to contact all these people that say truths, but they just don't know what they're doing, right? Not fully understand. So I have to claim responsibility because I know. That's the first thing you have to do with the truth. You not only have to just say it, you have to be responsible for the truth and understand that some people are not fully understanding and they're doing some actions, right? And if they don't fully understand something, that's pretty evil. If they give loopholes to people, they listen to those, they might do wrong actions anyways. It's not fully clear or what comes out of what Mark Passio says, but it's like, okay, yeah, it's really hard to pinpoint something evil from that, but that's definitely what happens when you don't follow the truth, right? Clearly. When someone is very close to the truth, it's seemingly unnoticeable. But yeah, it's really important to just give as much purity as possible. Because once transition happens, the transition, I think, I always imagined the transition to be for at least, I want to be responsible, so you see my team, or my creation of this Positteam. This is a group of people that basically grows in numbers, but what it does, it doesn't just allow people, it allows everyone. That's the first important point. It's not a cult. It doesn't just cherry pick people or try to brainwash them into believing something. No, they just simply test, right? Test if you can just generally be responsible over your actions. Then you're just simply given an environment where you can do stuff, right? Of course, the responsibility is not something you can say that, oh, you're responsible now. You can do whatever you want. So that's something that has to be cleared up. It's kind of complicated then. How much responsibility do you have to be able to do things? Yeah, that's going into technical stuff, how Positteam is going to evaluate things, for example. How Positteam is going to give orders. Because sometimes orders are important. If someone can claim responsibility, of course, right? You should watch this movie because it's good, right? It's a fucking order. Yeah, you can say, oh, it's a recommendation. It's the same thing, though. It's a fucking order of what another person should do. And we shouldn't actually avoid the non-self-destructive concept of what order is. We just have to understand that someone is avoiding responsibility for what order they give. That is very fucking bad. The first thing you wanna destroy are the order givers. The top of the pyramid. Yeah. I mean, think about it. Right? The concept that Mark Passy is talking about is you have to hate people on the bottom of the pyramid that are being crushed with social pressure. This is a good way to show social pressure, just crushing down the bottom. That's exactly what they symbolize, right? I don't know why the top is cut off, but oh yes, the top is cut off because the best of the best don't actually have to engage with social pressure. They don't have to actually pressure anything. Really. They just say, oh, yeah, we're just gonna kick you out if you don't follow the orders. So it's not much pressure. They actually pressure themselves, whoever's detached. This is absolutely the best way to symbolize social pressure. Absolutely the best. As Mark Passy would say, it's a symbol of uniformity. So, yeah. Nice. Oh man, I'm so excited. I need to share truths. I finally realize what Positteam is all about. And come full circle saying, yeah, it's just a community that will realize that you have to make a test to analyze how much a person is responsible, what kind of actions he is able to do. And you give orders by accepting responsibility for the orders that you give. But at the same time, it's like you also question a person who does the action, who's responsible? Were you in charge in your actions? Again, that's going deeper, right? It's like, when can you expect a person to be responsible for their actions? Or should you be expecting always a person to always be responsible for their actions? And the thing is, again, fucking hell, it's not a cult. It's not a belief system. It's a closed off environment from anyone that is supposedly wants to harm the new social environment that is being created, right? So that is a social environment where it doesn't have a social pressure, where it doesn't need social pressure, it doesn't have to order people around, because they can be responsible for themselves. But it doesn't mean that there are going to be zero orders, right? The zero rules, nothing, That is never possible when people are not fully developed in, understanding. They know everything. They can be fully responsible for what they do. It's not possible. So you have to measure that, and you have to give some orders. But the important part is not actually giving orders. You can actually avoid giving orders by teaching, right? You teach. So instead of saying watch this movie, you just generally say general things about the movie that would make another person interested. If they're interested in certain things, they would just think for themselves, right? And this is the way you avoid giving orders. You teach people. And that's what Stefan Molyneux does, right? It's really powerful, actually. But Mark Piazzi didn't mention that, so it's a little bit annoying. Yeah, he does teach himself. He tries to say, like, oh, I'm gonna create other teachers, but why would you do that? Like, if you would know that you're fully saying the truth, you wouldn't need other teachers. You just copy and paste the truth. Everyone knows that. Cool, right? But yeah, he's not good enough, basically. He understands that. I realize that. Yeah, you get pissed off at things that are not good enough, and then you understand it. You have to take the responsibility to change those things, because other people don't, and you have to teach instead of making orders. What orders do is just evil thing, right? It's actually evil. Yeah. Or is it? Just giving orders. Because creating orders is not evil. But the concept of giving orders instead of teaching should be evil. Let's see if that's correct. So we have giving orders versus teaching. Okay, we have that. What does that come down to? So you give orders, you tell people what to do, you restrict people from doing what they want and take their freedoms, which is the fundamental principle of not being violent. That's exactly what this principle is all about. Whoever is giving orders is actually more evil than the one that receives, but the one that receives is evil because it allows to receive. But he is restricting his own freedom. the order give is definitely more responsible in every single way. For not teaching, for giving orders. That is the most evil thing you can do. Because that's directly linked to what violence is. Right? The definition of violence is the opposite of what golden rule is. And golden rule, I believe, is misguiding a little bit. It's quite really misguiding. The golden rule that is established right now is a fucking piece of shit. Okay, the golden rule is supposed to be anti-violence. And what it promotes, it says, don't do things that you don't want other people to do to you. That's poop. That is very poop, and if you go deeper, you start to, I will try to exploit this, right? The concept of golden rule is something that is unexploitable. It has to be anti-violence. The way I would phrase it is, don't do things that would prevent others to do what they want. Right? Don't take freedom away from people. It's another way of saying that. And the simplest way to say that, don't do evil or don't do violence. Simple, right? But you expand that slowly, depending on what is the level of understanding that is required to grasp the golden rule. And you really have to go really low, because people are really fucked up in trying to understand the definitions. They can't, right? They haven't tried thinking sometimes even, like, holy shit. So teaching is a really difficult process for, well, interacting with some people is ridiculous. Once you get people to level 3, they can learn for themselves. That's the whole point, really, is get them responsible to the level where they will never take an order. Basically, they're fully responsible for their actions. That's the level that you have to create the social environment for. So when you see a person, he's an actual individual. He thinks for himself. He is responsible for his actions. That's all you have to do to create an individual. Happiness didn't come into the play though, but the freedom did. It's kind of weird. How to put happiness? Well, not this time. I'm sorry, happiness. But yeah, that's the way to go. You understand the golden rule. I think you have to feed this very, very viciously, with a lot of passions, so to speak. Because is the solution in creating more individuals. Or you can also focus on this symbol, on the I, right? Are they fully responsible for their actions? Are they fully formed individuals? Do things on their own, right? Don't have anyone above them, and are just pointing arrows. They actually, the responsibilities contained with them. They have control point within. I used to have a concept called control point. So if you have control point within you, it's great. You can be accepted for this community that is Positteam. So you have what it takes. Alright, man. Do you have what it takes to join Positteam? I think that would be a very nice title as well. So that's what I'll put. It's long, but it's something that people read, because it's, the title is very important. Of course, it shouldn't be way too long, but it cannot just be a few words. These days it's just impossible to contain a title in a few words. So yeah, one sentence to describe the whole video is really possible, really fucking possible. And if you don't know what that means, right, usually after consuming a lot of media and stuff like that, you start to predict what is going to be talked about. You start to get the same truths over and over again. It's annoying, so you move on. You say, oh, I understand that. But when you try to define things, like say, what is the definition of happiness, how to get happiness, questions like this is just going to trigger an avalanche of other questions. And that's good, because you have to lower yourself down and down until you get to the level where you start to understand things. And that's how teaching works. Thank you, Internet. That's what I'll try to use as the ultimate tool to create the community. It's kind of weird. The technology became more than tools. I mean, it's impossible, right? They can even get artificial intelligence, but there's still going to be tools that we're going to be using there. They're going to be self-afflicting tools, I guess, like self-active tools. They can do things on their own. You don't actually have to put any human effort, energy, only for maintenance, of course. But yeah, that's the ultimate form of tool, is technology. And so technology is also pushing out the need of social pressure and all these bullshits that keeps us in level 2, basically. So once technology is fully formed, it's just going to push us out from level 2 as well. Which means that, yeah, I'll just be using that, and I'll be able to teach people. And technology is going to unite us out from level 2 into level 3. Into the place where you know you're going to meet another person, you're like, oh yeah, he's fully responsible. That's why Donald Trump would want to build a giant wall to keep away less responsible people for what they do. Like, what happens when there's a person that has all this power and just has no responsibility for what they do? They just start killing people, right? They're just ridiculous things that you don't understand what terrorism is until you understand this. It's just so fucked up, and people are gonna keep on dying. I'm pretty sure it's super peaceful in terms of there are no actual bad events happening that are caused by other people. Of course, there's gonna be bad events happening in general, and there are gonna be mistakes. But in general, there shouldn't be anyone that would try to do something evil, because it will be recognized as unvaluable in the long run. Like, why would you want to do that? Of course, there's another hidden aspect. What it is soul. If soul actually exists, then you will come back to this life over and over again in different ways. So you might want to actually not flood the world, because you might have to, or might have an ability to come back. So that's an important part, right? That is something that we try to forget as well. So yeah, that's all I have time for. I think that was pretty fucking nice journey. I'll keep on doing the great work whenever. Yeah, most of the stuff now I kind of. The blackboard is actually more of a reactive thing. Because I won't be able to actually figure out what questions should I ask. So usually people are going to be able to trigger this. Otherwise, actually, whiteboards are going to dominate if the popularity is going to be low. I think that's the dynamic, because, you know, I can just figure out questions, but whatever. Let's just go with that. Whoever understood that is a genius. Alright, see you guys.